Coming up on In Your Neighborhood, we'll talk with a father-daughter duo about how they pulled off a cross-country bike ride that ended in October. Plus, we'll tell you what went into the massive mural on the back of the Danville Middle School.
Service Electric Cablevision knows the internet is evolving, taking new twists and turns. As we add our input, make our choices, and follow the light that connects us all. It's quite a journey, one to experience with the fastest speeds available. Contact Service Electric and connect to the internet speed that suits your journey. And enjoy the ride.
There are a lot of avenues you can take to market your business, but one easy choice to make. The SECV8 Community Bulletin Board is an inexpensive way for you to get directly into the homes of the potential customers you want to reach. The Community Bulletin Board costs $6 a day and can reach up to 54,000 households. You can find out more by heading to secv8.com.
You've never been here?
No, this is my first time.
I got some regret.
Strapped to the damn cinder block.
I shouldn't be here.
Yes!
Book first day in. New episodes Wednesdays at 10, only on A&E. And watch next day on the A&E app.
What if I told you these people are related to these famous faces?
Don't play games with your mama.
Our new Fox show is a guessing game that's all relative.
Oh.
That's the performer to their superstar relative.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
I know the voice.
And you could win life-changing money.
Sign me up, Anthony.
What happened to I don't play games?
I never said that.
We Are Family, all new Wednesdays on Fox and watch anytime on demand.
Welcome to In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Chris O'Rourke, and we're coming to you from a remote spot in Columbia County, which would be ideal for a bike ride. But that wasn't good enough for Fred Kressler. He wanted to take his bike across the country. You're looking at a Trek 520 touring bike. It's made of steel, so it's a little heavier and sturdier than a road bike you would get today. It's also laden with all kinds of packs that would be ideal for a long ride, which is what it went through not too long ago with its owner, Fred Kressler of the Bloomsburg area. Fred bought the bike 25 years ago with the intent of using it to ride across the country, but wasn't able to fulfill that dream, bordering on an obsession until this year. Kressler and his daughter Carrie completed the adventure back in October, wrapping up on a rainy day in D.C. The almost 4,100-mile trip took them 89 days, beginning in Washington State in July. The trip actually started earlier, when Fred and Carrie took an Amtrak train from Ohio to Everett, Washington. Their bikes went along for the ride along with the knowledge of all of their family and friends that they were about to do this. And they got a lot of questions on the train from passengers who saw them loading up their bikes, so as Fred told us, they were committed. While both were excited when they eventually put their shoes to the pedals in Anacortes, Washington, the gravity of what they were about to do didn't hit them at that moment. Carrie also confided to us that she had second thoughts almost immediately.
Was there ever a point where you thought you couldn't finish? Never a doubt.
I was pretty sure we could finish after a certain point. If if I can change the question to, was there ever a time I wanted to quit?
Yes, absolutely.
So the thing is it's funny. I knew we could do it, but I did want to quit right at the beginning. My dad and I had to have some pretty honest conversations about pacing, about expectations. Again, he was in shape when we started and I was not. And so he was pushing me even if it was unintentional. And I had to learn how to speak up and put my foot down. And he had to learn how to, hold back a little bit. And that helped get us through. But yeah, those first couple of days were really, really stressful.
She told us that while she is a hiker and a backpacker, she isn't really a biker, and no amount of advanced training in Tucson, Arizona, where she lives, could prepare her for 8 to 10 hours a day in the saddle. So it took her about 3 weeks to get into biking shape during the ride. Meanwhile, Fred rides his bike everywhere and runs, and told us he was at the lowest weight of his adult life, so he was ready. Kressler says that while Carrie had trouble keeping up with him at first, the tables turned about a month into the ride. After deciding to do the big adventure back in March, Carrie began 3 months of planning, including establishing the route they would take.
So we based our routes off of the Adventure Cycling Association's routes. There's an organization that has collected a lot of data, made maps for various routes, biking routes across the country. And so we took a look at what they had to offer, and then we selected routes that went to the places we wanted to see. So our route isn't anything in particular. That doesn't have a name. It's a combination of the Northern Tier route, the Great Parks North route, the Trans-America route, the Eastern Express, and the Chicago to New York, with a few other rail trails thrown in there too. So we picked that route just because it went where we wanted to go. So that combination went to Glacier, the Tetons, and then it went and skirted by Rocky Mountain National Park. It went by some family members out in the Midwest. And Anacortes was on the Northern Tier route and got us pretty close to being able to jump up to Glacier once we got to the eastern side of Washington. So that's why we chose that place. I had never been, and neither had my dad, so a lot of the choices were based on combining a lot of new experiences with some old familiar territory.
Carrie also told us that although she had planned for the ride, nothing could prepare her for being on the road each day, not knowing just how much they'd be able to cover. So it took her a little bit to get into a planning groove. First being able to look ahead about 2 to 3 days, and then getting up to 2 weeks in advance. Once they got in sync with their schedule and riding together as a team, they began to take in all of the sights that the ride had to offer.
The Cascades were absolutely beautiful. The Tetons and Glacier, if you like mountains and snow and rocks, and I do, that was great. But I tried to be basically trying to stay in the moment as much as I could. Because I was thinking, boy, when I get to the plains, I'm going to be depressed. There won't be anything to see. Well, the plains was different. There were lots of times you were in, it was almost like meditating. You were in your head a lot because a lot of it was still the same, but it was better than I anticipated. I was just thinking, it'd be cornfield after cornfield after cornfield. Oh, that cornstalk looks a little different than that one. And trying to talk yourself into something, but it wasn't that bad. And we put on more miles, there were a lot less hills, till we got to like Kansas. In Kansas, it seemed like you'd have this hill, you went down, and then the next hill coming up was a lot further, and then down, and then a lot further. That got a little bit tiring.
I absolutely loved all the national parks we visited. We went to the North Cascades, Grand Teton, Glacier, skirted by Rocky Mountain, didn't go in. And gosh, they're beautiful. They make all the hills that you take to climb to get to them worth it. It's I gotta say that the Northwest and then the West was just absolutely beautiful. And those were big highlights for me.
As you would expect, they had their share of bike troubles. including flat tires, and that time when Fred's back tire stopped spinning in the Cascades of Washington State. He also had his moment of doubt and pain in Montana, when a 20-mile-an-hour headwind had him beaten down, and considering bringing the trek to an end. They did manage to squeeze in some breaks along the way, including a 3-day stint in Oregon for bike repairs, and as if biking wasn't enough, the pair managed to also include another love, hiking. They also liked to walk around some of the towns they went through, and as you can imagine, they drew some attention on their bikes, which led them to experience the good of the people they met.
When you're bicycling, you communicate, and we met the absolute nicest people. There was one time, well, the host that we stayed with, for one, and we stopped at this bakery that everybody was saying, you gotta stop there for breakfast. It's really, really great. I think it's called something like the 4 Bs. And if I get some of this wrong, the story is true, but the names might be wrong. Anyhow, this 4B bakery is a great breakfast. And everybody sitting in there having breakfast wanted to talk to us. So we're talking, and we're telling them what we're up to and everything. This one gentleman who paints murals, so we passed several of his murals on the sides of buildings and everything. And this was near Concrete, Washington. He said, well, down the road about 35 miles is an ice cream shop. You'll probably be passing there at a certain time. Ice cream's on me. We get there and we pull in, and they say, are you Fred? Are you Carrie? Yep. Says, whatever you want, it's paid for. It's like, and this was the way things worked. This was typical the way things went for us, though. It's just unbelievable. And the warm shower hosts, I don't remember which one it was, but Carrie called them up in the afternoon, said, well, you'll probably be here about 3, 4 o'clock. I won't be home till 6. The back door's open, the beer's in the fridge, and it's cold. And this is the kind of people we met the whole time. It really was. It was so inspiring. And we just find everybody can have a bad day, but everybody seems to have their best days when they pass it on to us.
The ride stoppages were, of course, the least amount of mileage they put in for a day, while their highest total was 75 miles. All the while, they churned away on the pedals, with Fred riding over a weigh scale and learning that his whole setup was 220 pounds. And with his weight at 140, that meant he was carrying an extra 80 pounds. Speaking of 80, another interesting thing he told us is that while you can't ride bikes on Interstate 80 in Pennsylvania, you can in Wyoming. So they traveled on it for 15 miles in the driving lane. As you would expect, spending that much time together, Carrie and Fred got even closer than they were before.
I learned a lot about my dad, that's for sure. I think he had to learn, well, we've always had a good relationship, and I felt like when I was younger, he treated me more like a peer than his daughter all the time, especially when I became a teenager. I did notice that there was he'll always be my dad. And so some of the places where we, I guess, butted heads were times where he wasn't allowing me to, I just didn't feel like I felt like I was more of his daughter rather than a peer, rather than somebody who's done a bunch of, trips guiding and planned trips like this in the past for themselves.
We had hiked for a month together on the Appalachian Trail, and we had also done the C&O towpath and the Great Allegheny, part of the Great Allegheny Passage together already, and with her husband. And so my daughter Carrie and I are pretty close, even though she lives in Arizona and she's 37 years old now, 36. So there's 40 years difference between us. We're pretty much alike in a lot of ways. And I admire her a lot. It's like she could just as easily be my best friend. And we had some little issues that we had to deal with, like the fact that I'd say, huh? What? What'd you say? Or I'd hear 2/3 of what she said and then just agree without actually knowing what I agreed with. Right. All that was issues we had to deal with. And I think we dealt with them as successfully as we could.
The pair and Fred's other daughter, Catherine, spent many a weekend together when the kids were younger, out hiking and backpacking as a way to get them out of the house and away from Fred's wife, Iva, who needed to sleep after working night shift at Geisinger. Fred says the two girls got really good at finding their way around trails. That translated to Carrie's travels later in life, like the time she hiked the Appalachian Trail by herself in 2009, with Fred tagging along for the first 2 weeks or so in Maine, where she started. She also joined some friends in canoeing the entire 3,000-mile length of the Mississippi River. As for why Fred had a bee in his bonnet about a cross-country ride, he taught school for 9 years and remembers 2 of his students who graduated high school tackling the cross-country ride. He thought it sounded like a neat thing to do, and it stuck in his head. Of course, he also admitted that the days of freedom that the bike trek brought were a nice way to get away from the responsibility of helping coordinate the construction of his wife's large she shed, which we were sitting in on this day. Fred is now thinking about taking another ride on the C&O bike path from Cumberland, Maryland into Washington, D.C., and he's also toying with the idea of kayaking on the Erie Canal. So this guy never sits still. When we come back, we'll take you to a local school where some kids cooked up an idea for a brand new mural.
Hello everybody, I'm Carl Bauer. Join me as we sit down with some local sports legends of the past. From state champions to gold medalists, we catch up and find out whatever happened to those fantastic local athletes. Join me every Monday at 2 and 6 p.m. for Catching Up with Carl, only on Service Electric Cablevision, channel 508 HD.
Showtime, the groundbreaking network, is reaching new heights with original series from Paramount Plus. Introducing Paramount Plus with Showtime. More series, more stars, one network.
Let's fly.
Paramount Plus with Showtime, available now.
The bigger the star,
Joe Rogan is in a class of his own.
The bigger the scandal.
His whole life did a 180.
Once you fall,
Dave's gone.
The only way is up.
The more hostility towards him made him more powerful.
9 Lives of, Wednesdays at 10 on Vice.
Imagine finding out at the start of the school year that you're going to participate in a project that will change the appearance of your school forever. That's what happened to some Danville Middle School students back in the fall when they learned they would help paint a mural that would hang on the back of the school.
I was really excited because painting and art is like my favorite thing ever, and it was really cool because I never painted anything like really big before.
Bowie wasn't the only one excited. Art teacher Megan Highstand jumped on board about a year ago when it was suggested that a mural would fit in well with a community park project to beautify the area behind the school.
It's something I've always wanted to do, and it kind of just gave me jumpstart initiative to get started. So then I went to the Perry County Arts and Education. It's out of Perry County, down Newtown, and they do essentially they pair artists with school districts. They bring in these teaching artists who take the students and the teacher through the whole process of creating a mural, and they partially fund it and give you all the resources that you need to get started.
Here is the truly unique part of this project. They didn't just seek out the artists in the school to do this mural. Every student in grades 6 through 8 who had art classes with High Stand at that time had a hand in the end result. That's about 200 kids. Mural artist Katie Trainer started working with them in September of 2023, and they all worked every day for 2 weeks on different sections of the large 200-foot mural. They did the painting on parachute paper, and while Trainer had the ultimate vision for the mural, the kids also had input in the design.
So the theme of the mural actually was kind of loosely decided before we even started painting. So we told the students we wanted to focus on things that were important to them and their idea of community in Danville, since it was part of the community park project. So we talked about native species, plants and animals. We talked about iconic places and things in Danville, and then just like what was important to them as like students in the school district.
The students did little sketches which Katie then visualized loosely on the panels, with the kids doing the painting. Along the way, they not only learned a lot about how to paint a mural, but new painting techniques and the mindset you need to tackle a big project like this. And did you learn any new art techniques in doing this?
To turn your brush sideways and press down to get a thinner or thicker line when you're doing details. I think like using the brush, because I don't do like a lot of like calligraphy stuff, so using the brush for like line art was cool to like get the different textures rather than an ink.
I'm not really sure if I don't think it's a technique, but I learned to like trust the process and not freak out if it's not perfect at first.
It's always good to like just not second guess and just do it like when you want to and not wait until the last moment.
These students told us they worked on backgrounds and touch-up, and Ruby was able to add her own little personal touch to the mural in the form of this worm with a top hat. High Stand says that while it was a chaotic 2 weeks, it was a great experience for her as well, from a teaching perspective, because it required a lot of patience from all involved and a fair amount of what the kids just said, letting go and trusting in the process. Once the mural was done, the artist then took over.
So then Katie took the panels, and it's almost like a wallpaper application process where she has a special gel that she uses that she puts on the wall, and she primed and cleaned the wall before she did this. And then she put this special gel with a roller onto the wall, and then on the back of the panels she placed the gel so that when they adhere they kind of like suction together, and then she almost like squeegees it out so that it stays flush to the wall and there's no air bubbles.
Did you know right away where you wanted to put it?
I did, because this blank space that was on the back of the building, I always thought it was not very pretty and attractive. And since the community park faces the mural, or the part of the school that faces the park is the part that we did it on, I thought that would be a perfect collaboration between the two.
Did that also help that space dictate the size of what you did and the dimensions of what it was?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. I think when Tom originally came to me with the idea of a mural, he was imagining something much smaller, but I figured if we can make it happen, why not? And we did.
Katie also put a gel on the front of the mural to protect it from the elements. We should say at this point that the Perry County Arts Council partially funded the project, with CMSU Behavioral Health and Development Services also contributing, because they recognized what the district did as well, that the mural, with its bright colors and positive affirmations, could encourage people and give them a sense of community pride. High Stand says that's especially the case with the students. She loved to see the process of putting it up, and the kids were so excited to see it completely finished. And is it pretty cool seeing that out there now?
Yes, I really enjoy looking at it. It's really cool, especially because all of last year we were doing things to get the behind the school just to be a better place. Like we planted a bunch of trees. We were gonna do some other things, I'm pretty sure, and that was one of the things we did to make the back to the school a little bit better, and I think it's really cool.
It's actually really nice because it's really pretty all together. It looks really cool. I really like it.
What they may not have realized at the time is how much the mural and the memories of helping to create it will impact them far into the future.
I think that for years to come, the kids are going to come back and realize, maybe they don't even realize it yet, how cool it was that they were involved in this, but I hope that they come back, 10 years from now and are like, oh, and there's this mural in town that I helped to make.
You are brilliant. You can't ask for a better message than that, and they're spread all along this enormous mural. Highstand says she would like to see other types of art, like maybe sculptures, incorporated into this project behind the school. If you have a segment idea for us, like this one, send us an email at IYN@secv8.com or drop us a message on our Facebook page. And that's going to do it for us. I'm your host, Chris O'Rourke. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time, maybe from in your neighborhood.